Tasha stands proudly in her graduation gown, surrounded by family at her celebration dinner, having overcome financial struggles and working full-time while earning her degree. As she prepares to cut her specially ordered cake, her 12-year-old nephew Jackson suddenly shoves it off the table, sneering, "Eat it off the ground like the dog you are." The entire table erupts in laughter while Tasha freezes, cake splattered across her new shoes, the culmination of her years of sacrifice ruined in an instant. I never thought my graduation day would end with chocolate cake smeared across the restaurant floor and my family laughing at my humiliation. But to understand how I got there, you need to know what came before. 6 years ago, my father died unexpectedly from a heart attack. Dad was the glue that held our family together, the mediator between my mother's harsh criticism and my sister Amanda's self-centeredness. He was also the only one who ever truly believed in me. When he passed, our family dynamics shattered along with our financial stability. Mom had never worked outside the home, and Amanda was busy with her new marriage to Doug Peterson and raising their son Jackson. That left me, 22 and halfway through my business degree, to step up and handle everything. I put my education on part-time status and picked up 2 jobs to help with the bills. "Tasha, we need $2,000 for the property tax," Mom would say, or "The furnace is broken and I don't have the money to fix it." Each time, I would dig into my savings or take out another student loan to cover the expenses. When Mom was about to lose the house, I co-signed for a refinance loan, despite my financial advisor's warnings. "It's just a formality," Mom assured me. "You'll never have to pay a dime." 6 months later, I did the same for Amanda when she needed a new SUV after her divorce from Doug. "Family takes care of family" became their mantra whenever they needed something, yet that sentiment never seemed to apply when I needed support. Throughout those years, I never gave up on my education. I attended night classes, studied during lunch breaks, and sacrificed weekends while my friends enjoyed their 20s. Mom and Amanda made it clear they thought I was wasting my time. "College is for people who don't know how to work," Mom would say. "Just find a rich husband like I did," Amanda suggested after reconciling with Doug. "That degree won't make you happy." I lost count of how many times Amanda's son Jackson would accidentally spill drinks on my textbooks or delete files from my laptop when I brought work to family dinners. Each time, Amanda would shrug it off. "He's just being a boy." Despite their discouragement, I persisted. When I finally reached my graduation semester, I was working as an administrative assistant at Wilson Financial with a promise of promotion once I had my degree. The future finally looked bright. 2 weeks before graduation, I overheard a phone conversation between Mom and Amanda that stopped me cold. "Looks like Tasha's actually going to graduate," Mom said with surprise in her voice. "You owe me $50. I was sure she'd quit before finishing." "Whatever," Amanda replied. "It's not like that business degree will get her anywhere. She'll still be the family ATM. Did you see the balance in her savings account when you borrowed her laptop last month?" They had been betting against my success for years. They had been monitoring my finances. Yet somehow, I still wanted to believe we could be a real family. That's why I spent $300 I couldn't really spare to reserve a private room at Bellamy's, the nicest restaurant in town, for my graduation celebration. I invited Mom, Amanda, Doug, and Jackson, along with my best friend Melissa and her husband. I ordered a custom cake with my university logo and "Congratulations, Tasha" written in blue icing. I bought a new dress and shoes. I wanted everything to be perfect. On graduation day, I walked across the stage, the first person in my family to earn a college degree. I looked out at the audience, hoping to see my family cheering. Their seats were empty. They showed up 45 minutes late to the ceremony, missing my moment entirely. "The traffic was terrible," Mom said dismissively when they finally arrived at the restaurant 2 hours later. I tried to hide my disappointment. I was determined to make this a positive memory. When the server brought out my beautiful cake, I actually felt tears of joy. I had done it, despite everything. That's when Jackson reached across the table and shoved the cake onto the floor. "Eat it off the ground like the dog you are," he sneered. And my family laughed. I stood frozen, staring at the destroyed cake, blue icing smeared across the tile floor and splattered on my new shoes. The laughter from my family table echoed in my ears as other diners turned to stare. "Oh my God, Jackson," Amanda squealed between giggles. "You are too much." My mother wiped tears of laughter from her eyes, the look on her face, priceless. Even Doug, who usually remained stoic during family gatherings, was chuckling. Kids got a sense of humor, that's for sure. Only Melissa moved to help me, grabbing napkins from the table and kneeling to clean the mess. "This is not okay," she muttered, shooting glares at my family. "It's just cake," Amanda said dismissively. "Don't be such a drama queen, Tasha. We can order dessert from the menu." I felt something break inside me. 6 years of supporting them financially, emotionally, and physically, and this was how they celebrated my achievement. But instead of causing a scene, I excused myself to the restroom, my legs somehow carrying me across the restaurant. In the privacy of the bathroom stall, I pressed my forehead against the cool metal door and took deep breaths. I could hear women coming and going, water running, hand dryers blowing. Then I heard the door open again and recognized my mother's and sister's voices. "She's always been so sensitive," Mom said. "Remember when Dad died and she cried through the entire funeral? So embarrassing." "I know. And now she's acting like Jackson committed a crime." "It was funny. The kid was just having some fun," Amanda replied. "Besides, she's been insufferable about this graduation. Like she's the first person ever to get a degree. She probably thinks that fancy piece of paper makes her better than us now." "Well, she's still stuck paying our bills, so not that much better." They both laughed as they left the bathroom. I stayed in the stall until I was sure they were gone, then splashed cold water on my face. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Who was this woman who let people treat her this way? When I returned to the table, a chocolate lava cake had been ordered and was being shared among my family. No one had waited for me. "There she is," Mom announced. "We thought you'd fallen in." I forced a smile and sat down. "Sorry about that." "Jackson has something to say?" Amanda prompted, nudging her son. Jackson rolled his eyes. "Sorry about your stupid cake," he muttered without looking at me. "It's fine," I replied automatically, though it wasn't. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. I paid the bill, including an extra charge for the cleanup of the cake. As we left, the manager pulled me aside. "I want you to know that behavior was unacceptable," she said quietly. "If you ever come back, that young man won't be welcome." I nodded, embarrassed that strangers had witnessed my family's treatment of me. Since Mom and Amanda had ridden with me to the restaurant, I had to drive them home, enduring 30 minutes of their commentary. "That restaurant was overpriced for what it was," Mom complained from the passenger seat. "And that server was so slow." "I barely had time to finish my wine before we had to leave," Amanda added from the back. "You could have afforded somewhere nicer with that promotion you're getting," Mom said, picking at her nails. "What's the point of a degree if it doesn't get you a real salary?" I gripped the steering wheel tighter but said nothing. When we arrived at Mom's house, where Amanda was currently staying after another rough patch with Doug, they got out without saying thank you. "We're having a family barbecue next Sunday," Mom called over her shoulder. "Bring those potato chips everyone likes, the expensive kind from that specialty store." I watched them walk inside, neither of them looking back, and felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. The day I had looked forward to for so long was finally over, and it had been a disaster. Back at my apartment, I fumbled with my keys, noticing immediately that something was wrong. The door was slightly ajar. Heart racing, I pushed it open to find my living room ransacked. Drawers pulled out, cushions slashed, and belongings scattered everywhere. My graduation gifts from Melissa and my coworkers were gone. My laptop, TV, and the small pearl earrings that had belonged to my grandmother had disappeared. Even the congratulations cards had been torn open, presumably looking for cash. I called the police, then tried calling my mother for emotional support. "Someone broke into my apartment," I said when she answered, my voice shaking. There was a pause, then, "It's just stuff, Tasha. Insurance will cover it. No need to be dramatic." "I don't have renter's insurance," I admitted. I had canceled it 2 months ago when I needed extra money for Mom's plumbing repairs. "Well, that was stupid of you," she replied. "Look, we're watching a movie. Can this wait until tomorrow?" I hung up without answering and tried Melissa instead, but got her voicemail. Her husband called back 10 minutes later to tell me she'd been rushed to the hospital with appendicitis after dinner and was in surgery. As I sat on my violated living room floor waiting for the police, surrounded by the wreckage of my belongings, I felt utterly alone. The officer who took my statement was kind but not optimistic about recovering anything. Most of these smash and grabs are addicts looking for quick cash, he explained. They've probably already sold or pawned everything. After he left, I couldn't bear to sleep in my apartment. The budget hotel down the street cost $80 I couldn't spare, but I paid it anyway, curling up in the scratchy sheets as the events of the day replayed in my mind. My phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Thinking it might be an update from Melissa's husband, I grabbed it immediately. Instead, I saw a group text from my mother to me and Amanda. The message that would change everything. The text glowed harshly in the dark hotel room. "We've chosen to sever all contact. Stay away forever." I stared at the screen, blinking in disbelief. Below the message, I could see Amanda had liked it. The timestamp showed it had been sent just minutes ago, at 3 a.m. What had I done to deserve this? I called my mother immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. Same with Amanda. I tried again and again, panic rising in my chest. By 6 a.m, my call log showed 27 unanswered calls. Unable to sleep and desperate for answers, I drove to my mother's house as soon as it was light outside. Her car and Amanda's were both in the driveway. I knocked on the door repeatedly, calling out their names. Finally, Mom opened the door a few inches, security chain still in place. What part of "stay away forever" was unclear, she asked coldly. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you doing this?" My voice cracked with confusion and hurt. "After your behavior yesterday, we've decided it's best if we don't have contact with you anymore. You've changed, Tasha. College has made you think you're better than family." "What behavior?" "Jackson destroyed my graduation cake and everyone laughed at me. Then my apartment was robbed and you didn't even care. See, this is exactly what we're talking about. Always the victim, always exaggerating. Jackson played a harmless prank and you've been sulking ever since. As for your apartment, that's what happens when you live in that part of town." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, please, can we talk about this? I don't understand what's happening." "There's nothing to discuss. Amanda and I agree that your negativity is toxic to this family. Jackson is traumatized by how you reacted to his joke." "Traumatized? He told me to eat cake off the floor and called me a dog." "He's 12, Tasha. You're the adult. You should know better than to hold a grudge against a child." The door slammed in my face. I stood there, stunned, before numbly walking back to my car. As I sat in the driveway, trying to process what had just happened, Mrs. Hendricks from next door approached, walking her small terrier. "Tasha, is that you, dear? I haven't seen you in ages. How are you?" I managed a weak smile. "I'm okay, Mrs. Hendricks. Just visiting Mom." "Oh," she said, her expression changing. "I heard about what happened at your graduation dinner. Such a shame." My head snapped up. "What did you hear?" "Well, your mother told the book club you had some sort of breakdown at a restaurant, screaming at your nephew until he cried, throwing food. She said you've been under a lot of pressure with school and might need professional help." My jaw dropped. "That's not what happened at all." Mrs. Hendricks patted my arm. "Of course, dear. These things get exaggerated. I'm sure you'll work it out." But her eyes held doubt, and I realized my family had already been spreading their version of events. Back at my ransacked apartment, I opened my laptop, grateful the thieves had missed the old computer I kept as a backup. I logged into Facebook and found dozens of new notifications. Posts from extended family members expressing concern about my episode. Messages asking if I was getting the help I need. One post from my cousin Beth read, "Family should always come first. So sad when education changes people for the worse. Praying for you, Tasha." Amanda had shared a post about toxic family members with the caption, "Sometimes the hardest thing is letting go of people who are hurting your children. Mamas protect their babies." The narrative had been completely flipped. In their version, I was the villain. While scrolling through the barrage of family propaganda, an email notification popped up. It was from a recruiting agency I'd applied to months ago, regarding your withdrawal from consideration. Confused, I opened it to find they were sorry to hear I was no longer interested in employment opportunities and wished me the best in my future endeavors. But I had never withdrawn my application. I called the agency immediately. "Yes, Miss Rollins," the recruiter said after looking up my file. "We received an email from you last week stating you had accepted another position and wished to withdraw from consideration for all roles." "I never sent that email," I insisted. "Well, it came from your email address. I have it right here. It even mentions your sister's upcoming wedding as the reason for your career change. You said you'd be handling the family business full time now. My sister wasn't getting married, and we had no family business. Someone had impersonated me to sabotage my job prospects." After hanging up, I recalled something Amanda had said months ago when I mentioned this recruiting agency over dinner. "That place only works with big companies. You probably won't hear back." Had she been monitoring my job search? How would she even have access to my email? I suddenly remembered that during Christmas, when my laptop was acting up, Amanda had offered to fix it for me. She had it for 2 days. More than enough time to install spyware or set up email forwarding. With growing suspicion, I logged into my bank account. Everything looked normal at first glance. Then I noticed small, regular transfers to a savings account I didn't recognize. $50 here, $75 there, always on days I got paid. The amounts were small enough that I hadn't noticed them among my legitimate bills. When I called the bank, they confirmed the linked account belonged to Amanda Peterson. My sister had been stealing from me while simultaneously monitoring my finances and sabotaging my career prospects. But why? What was the end game? The answer came when I checked my credit report. There, alongside my student loans and the mortgage I'd co-signed for Mom, were 3 credit cards I'd never applied for, all maxed out. All in my name, but with Amanda's address for statements. My sister had stolen my identity, and from the dates of the accounts, she'd been doing it for years. As the reality of the situation sank in, my phone buzzed with another text from my mother. "Stop harassing the neighbors. We've told everyone about your problems. No one believes your lies anymore." I set the phone down, my hands shaking with a mixture of anger and clarity. This wasn't about Jackson's prank or my reaction to it. This was about control. Financial control. And for the first time, I could see the whole picture clearly. They needed me isolated, compliant, and financing their lifestyle. My graduation represented independence, and they couldn't allow that. The cake incident, the character assassination, the identity theft, it was all part of a pattern I'd been too close to see. I picked up my phone and took a screenshot of my credit report, highlighting the fraudulent accounts. Then I typed a message to the family group chat, removing my name from every loan tomorrow. Within seconds, my phone exploded with notifications. 100 missed calls by midnight was just the beginning. The calls and texts came so rapidly that my phone overheated and shut down. When I rebooted it, the notifications were overwhelming. "Mom, you can't do this to me. I'll lose the house." "Amanda, this isn't funny, Tasha. You're threatening your nephew's security." "Doug, whatever you think Amanda did, we can work it out. Don't make hasty decisions." "Mom, after everything I've done for you, I raised you alone after your father abandoned us." "Amanda, those credit cards were for emergencies only. You said I could use your credit if I needed to." "Mom, if you do this, you're no daughter of mine. Call me right now." I turned off my phone and tried to think clearly. Despite my background in business, I realized I knew very little about extricating myself from these financial entanglements. I needed professional help. Lauren Brooks, a financial advisor at Wilson Financial where I worked, had always been kind to me. Though it was Sunday, I sent her an emergency email explaining my situation in vague terms, asking if she could meet first thing Monday morning. To my surprise, she replied within the hour, "Come to my house this afternoon. Bring all documentation you have. This can't wait." Lauren lived in a modest but, well, maintained home in the suburbs. When I arrived, she had already prepared a workspace with her laptop, calculator, and notepad. "I've seen this before. she said after I explained the full situation. Family financial abuse is more common than people realize. Let's figure out exactly what we're dealing with. Over the next 4 hours, we combed through every aspect of my financial life. The picture that emerged was worse than I'd imagined. I had co-signed for my mother's $300,000 mortgage refinance. The original loan had been paid off when my father died, but she'd taken out equity repeatedly. Payments were 30 days past due. I was the co-signer on Amanda's $60,000 car loan for her luxury SUV. She'd missed 2 payments already. 3 credit cards in my name, which I'd never seen, had been maxed out to their combined limit of $22,000. The purchases included designer clothes, spa treatments, and a week-long vacation to Florida. Most alarmingly, Lauren discovered a recent inquiry on my credit report for a home equity line of credit. Someone had attempted to take out a loan against a house I didn't own. They're using your excellent credit score to finance their lifestyle, Lauren explained. Your mother and sister likely couldn't qualify for these loans on their own. But how do I fix this? I asked, feeling overwhelmed. It won't be easy, Lauren admitted. For the loans you co-signed legitimately, you're legally responsible if they don't pay. For the fraudulent credit cards, you'll need to file a police report for identity theft. Against my own sister? The thought made my stomach churn. Tasha, look at this. Lauren pulled up a spreadsheet showing my monthly income versus expenses. Between these loan payments and the money that's been siphoned from your account, you're losing nearly $2,000 a month. That's why you've been struggling despite your good job. I thought about all the times I'd eaten ramen noodles for dinner while Amanda posted Instagram photos of gourmet meals, how I'd put off medical care while Mom got monthly salon treatments. There's something else you should know, Lauren said gently. I checked the payment history on these accounts. Your mother and sister have been making minimum payments or paying late deliberately. They're maintaining the debt without reducing the principal. They never intended to pay these off. Why would they do that? Control. As long as you're financially entangled, you can't truly break free. As I processed this information, Lauren asked, didn't you mention you're up for a promotion soon? Yes, my boss is announcing it next week. How did you know? I didn't. But look at this timing. She pointed to the recent attempts to open new credit accounts in my name, all within the past month. Did you tell your family about your promotion? I shook my head. I was going to announce it at graduation. Lauren's expression grew serious. Someone knew. These attempts to access more of your credit coincide exactly with your improved financial prospects. That's when I remembered the congratulatory email from my boss that I'd received 2 weeks ago. I'd opened it on my home computer, the one with the spyware Amanda had likely installed. They knew I was getting a raise before I could announce it, I realized. They were already planning how to spend my money. Lauren helped me create a 3-step action plan. First, secure my identity by freezing my credit and changing all passwords. Second, document everything for potential legal action. Third, consult with an attorney about removing myself from the co-signed loans. As I was leaving, Lauren stopped me at the door. Tasha, I've seen this pattern before. When financial abusers realize they're losing control, they often escalate. Be prepared for things to get worse before they get better. I nodded, grateful for the warning but not fully comprehending how bad things would get. That night, I drafted a simple text to my mother and sister. I've discovered the unauthorized accounts opened in my name. I've frozen my credit and consulted a financial advisor. I'll be speaking with law enforcement tomorrow. This is not negotiable. Within minutes, my mother called. When I answered, her tone had completely changed from the angry messages earlier. Sweetie, I think there's been a big misunderstanding, she said, her voice syrupy sweet. Those accounts were just to help build your credit history. Amanda was trying to do you a favor. By maxing them out and not making payments? Well, we've been a little tight lately, but we were going to catch up. Family helps family, remember? Your father would be so disappointed to see how you're treating us. The mention of my father sparked something in me. Dad wouldn't have wanted me to be exploited. Exploited? How can you say such a thing? After all, we've sacrificed for you. What exactly have you sacrificed, Mom? Because from where I'm standing, I'm the only one who's given anything in this relationship. There was a moment of silence before her voice turned cold again. "You listen to me. If you go through with this, you'll regret it. We're the only family you have. Without us, you're nothing." After she hung up, I sat in my silent apartment, her words echoing in my head. For a moment, doubt crept in. Were they really the only family I had? What would happen if I cut them off? Then I remembered Lauren's spreadsheet. The thousands of dollars taken from me, the years of emotional manipulation, the graduation cake smashed on the floor while they laughed. With newfound resolve, I logged into my email and found the message from my boss about the promotion, the one my family had seen before I could announce it. It detailed my new salary, a 40% increase that would have finally given me financial stability. The last line read, "We value your dedication and integrity, Tasha. These qualities are rare and worth rewarding." I realized then that I did have worth outside of my family's definition. I had built a life they knew nothing about, with people who respected me. For the first time since my father's death, I allowed myself to consider a possibility that both thrilled and terrified me. What if I put myself first? I sent a short, final text to my mother and sister, removing my name from every loan tomorrow. Then I turned off my phone and slept soundly for the first time in years. By Monday morning, my voicemail box was full and my text message inbox was overflowing. I had turned my phone back on to find over 100 missed calls and dozens of messages, each more desperate or threatening than the last. From Mom, "You'll kill me if you do this. Is that what you want? Your mother's death on your conscience?" From Amanda, "Jackson is crying because he might lose his home. Hope you're happy destroying a child's life." From Doug, "Be reasonable, Tasha. Family disputes shouldn't involve financial warfare." From my Uncle Bill, who I hadn't heard from in 3 years, "Your mother is hysterical. Whatever this is about, you need to fix it now." From cousins, distant relatives, and even my mother's friends, the messages poured in, all with the same theme. I was selfish, unreasonable, and hurting the family. But I had made my decision. At 9 o'clock sharp, I walked into Riverside Bank and asked to speak with a loan officer about removing myself from my mother's mortgage. The loan officer, Mr. Patel, reviewed the documentation with a frown. "You co-signed this refinance 6 years ago?" "Yes, after my father died. My mother needed to restructure the loan." "I see. And you're aware that removing yourself would trigger a reassessment of your mother's creditworthiness? Given these late payments and her income level, the bank would likely require immediate repayment of the loan in full." "I understand," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Mr. Patel nodded. "We can start the process, but I should warn you it's not guaranteed. The bank may refuse to release a cosigner if we believe the primary borrower cannot maintain the loan. Your other option is to force a sale of the property." The thought of forcing my mother to sell her home made my stomach twist, but I remembered Lauren's words about financial entanglement and control. "Let's start with the request for release," I decided. "I'll explore other options if necessary." After filing the paperwork at the bank, I went directly to the police station to report the identity theft. The officer taking my report was sympathetic but direct. "You understand this could result in criminal charges against your sister?" I nodded, feeling numb. "I just want the fraudulent accounts removed from my credit report so I can move forward. We'll need evidence that you didn't authorize these accounts or purchases." I provided all the documentation Lauren had helped me compile, including the email records showing Amanda had accessed my accounts without permission. By the time I arrived at work, it was nearly noon. My boss, Richard Wilson, called me into his office immediately. "Tasha, your mother and sister are in the lobby," he said, looking concerned. "They're causing quite a scene, demanding to speak with you. Should I have security escort them out?" My heart raced. "I'm so sorry about this, Richard. I'm dealing with some personal issues that have become complicated." To my surprise, Richard's expression softened. "Family financial problems?" I nodded, embarrassed. "I went through something similar with my brother years ago," he said. "Sometimes the hardest business decisions involve the people closest to us." He picked up his phone. "Security, please escort the 2 women in the lobby off the premises. Miss Rollins will not be seeing them today." I felt a wave of gratitude. "Thank you for understanding." Take the rest of the day off, Tasha. Get your affairs in order. Your promotion announcement can wait until things settle down. As I left through the back entrance to avoid my family, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa, who was recovering from her appendectomy. What's going on? Your mom just called my husband claiming you're having a nervous breakdown and embezzling from work. Are you okay? I called her immediately and explained everything. The graduation disaster, the financial abuse, and the family's reaction to my standing up for myself. I knew they were taking advantage of you, Melissa said, but I had no idea it went this deep. What can I do to help? Just believing me is enough, I replied, realizing how isolated I'd felt. That belief became even more valuable over the next few days as my family's campaign against me intensified. They contacted everyone in my social circle, spreading rumors that I was mentally unstable, vindictive, or on drugs. Some people I thought were friends stopped returning my calls. Others reached out with concerned messages asking if I needed help. It felt like my entire support system was being systematically dismantled. Then the in-person harassment began. My mother parked outside my apartment building for hours. Amanda showed up at my favorite coffee shop to publicly confront me. They left notes on my car and sent packages to my office. After a week of this, I returned home to find family traitor spray painted across my apartment door. The property manager was sympathetic, but warned me that this kind of disturbance couldn't continue without consequences for my lease. That night I installed a security camera system I could barely afford. It seemed excessive until 3 days later when the motion alerts on my phone woke me at 2 a.m. On the security footage, I watched in real time as Doug, Amanda's husband, approached my car with something in his hand. The camera angle wasn't perfect, but it clearly showed him puncturing my tires before walking away. I reported the vandalism to the police and provided the video evidence. While the officer was taking my statement, I received a call from an unknown number. "Is this Tasha Rollins?" a woman's voice asked when I answered. "Yes. Who's this?" "My name is Jenny Watson. I worked with your father, Paul, at Midwest Manufacturing. I found some of his personal effects recently while cleaning out my garage, old papers and such. There's a journal I think you should see." I froze at the mention of my father. A journal? Yes. Paul and I were friends for many years. He confided in me about certain family matters. I think this journal might help you understand some things. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop the following day. When I arrived, Jenny was already waiting, a worn leather-bound book on the table before her. "I should have given this to you years ago," she said, pushing the journal toward me. "After Paul died, your mother made it clear the family wanted no contact with his work friends. But I saw your sister's Facebook post about you, and something didn't sit right." I opened the journal with trembling hands. Inside was my father's distinctive handwriting, pages and pages of entries spanning the last 2 years of his life. I began reading while Jenny quietly excused herself to give me privacy. The journal painted a picture of my family I had never seen. My father had been planning to divorce my mother after years of financial deception. She had been secretly withdrawing money from their joint accounts and running up credit card debt behind his back. "Maria took another $500 from the checking account today," one entry read. When confronted, she claimed it was for household expenses, but I found shopping bags hidden in her closet again. The girls don't see this side of her. Amanda has begun emulating her mother's spending habits, while Tasha works so hard for every dollar. I worry what will happen to my practical daughter in this family of takers. Another entry revealed that he had been setting aside money specifically for my education, transferred another $1,000 to Tasha's college fund today. Maria doesn't know about this account. After the divorce, I'll make sure Tasha has what she needs to finish school without struggling. The final entries were the most heartbreaking. My father had discovered that my mother had been intercepting his pension checks and diverting the funds. He had written about chest pains that he attributed to stress from the financial and marital conflict. His last entry, dated 3 days before his fatal heart attack, read, "Meeting with the lawyer tomorrow to file divorce papers. Can't live like this anymore. Worried about how this will affect the girls, especially Tasha. She's always been the peacekeeper, taking responsibility for everyone else's happiness. I need to teach her that it's okay to put herself first sometimes. He never got the chance to teach me that lesson. And his secret college fund for me had disappeared, likely discovered and depleted by my mother after his death. As I closed the journal, a small envelope fell out from between the last pages. Inside was a life insurance policy, naming me as the sole beneficiary, with a handwritten note, "For Tasha's education only." I had never seen this policy before. According to the documentation, it should have paid out $50,000 upon my father's death. When I called the insurance company, they confirmed that the policy had indeed been paid out 6 years ago. The check had been sent to my mother's address, made out to me, and had been cashed within days. A check I never received. Money that was meant for my education, taken without my knowledge. The pieces all fit together now. My father had tried to protect me financially. After his death, my mother and sister had not only taken what was meant for me, but had systematically used me as their financial safety net while sabotaging my attempts at independence. With this new clarity, I took the journal and insurance documentation to my lawyer. She believed we had enough evidence to pursue not only removal from the co-signed loans, but potential restitution for the misappropriated life insurance funds. That evening, as I was reviewing the legal paperwork, my security camera again alerted me to movement outside my apartment. This time it was Jackson, my 12-year-old nephew, standing alone at my door. Against my better judgment, I opened it. "Mom doesn't know I'm here," he said immediately, his eyes darting nervously. "But I heard her and Grandma talking about what they did to you." "What did you hear, Jackson?" I asked carefully. "That the cake thing wasn't my idea," he admitted, looking at the floor. "Mom told me to do it, said it would be funny, and everyone would laugh. She said you wouldn't care because you never stand up for yourself." His words struck like a physical blow. "Did she say why she wanted you to do that?" Jackson shrugged. "Something about keeping you in your place. She and Grandma were laughing about how you'd still pay their bills even after they ruined your graduation." He finally looked up, his expression troubled. "Was that wrong? Did I do something bad?" In that moment, I saw Jackson not as the entitled brat who had humiliated me, but as a child being molded by manipulative adults, just as I had been. "What they asked you to do wasn't right," I said gently. "But you're not responsible for their choices. You're 12, Jackson. Adults are supposed to teach you better." He nodded, seeming relieved. "I brought this," he said, holding out a small box. Inside was a graduation cap charm on a silver chain. I bought it with my allowance, to say sorry. I accepted the necklace, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Jackson. That means a lot." "Are you really not going to be in our family anymore?" he asked. "I'll always be your aunt," I assured him. "But sometimes adults need space from each other to be healthy. I can't keep helping your mom and Grandma the way I have been." After he left, I sat with the necklace in my palm, thinking about cycles of behavior and how they're passed down through generations. Jackson's visit had reinforced my resolve. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about breaking a pattern that would otherwise continue to damage everyone in its path. The next day, I made one of the hardest phone calls of my life. My mother answered on the first ring. "I found Dad's journal," I said without preamble. "I know about the life insurance policy." The silence on the other end told me everything. "I've spoken with a lawyer," I continued. "We have options here. We can handle this privately, with you and Amanda taking responsibility for the fraudulent accounts and repaying what you've taken. Or we can let the courts decide." "You wouldn't dare take your own family to court," my mother finally said, but her voice lacked conviction. "6 months ago, you would have been right," I admitted. "But I'm not that person anymore. The choice is yours." As I hung up, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time since my father's death, I was honoring his final wish for me, learning to put myself first. The road ahead would be difficult. The entanglements would take time to unravel. But I had taken the first step toward freedom, and nothing would make me turn back. The following weeks were a blur of legal consultations, financial paperwork, and emotional upheaval. My attorney, Sarah Blackwell, specialized in financial abuse cases and quickly developed a comprehensive strategy. "We'll approach this on 3 fronts," she explained during our second meeting. First, the identity theft and credit card fraud, which are criminal matters. Second, the life insurance funds, which we can pursue through civil court. Third, removing you from the co-signed loans, which is primarily a matter for the banks but may require legal pressure. The criminal case moved fastest. With the documentation I had provided and the police report filed, the credit card companies agreed to investigate the fraudulent accounts. Within 10 business days, they removed the accounts from my credit report and absolved me of responsibility for the debt. Amanda, however, now faced potential criminal charges for fraud and identity theft. The civil case regarding the life insurance policy was more complex. My father's journal provided compelling evidence, but it wasn't a legally binding document. The insurance company confirmed the check had been made out to me but endorsed and deposited by my mother. She forged your signature, Sarah concluded after seeing the bank records. We can prove that with handwriting analysis if necessary, but I'm hoping it won't come to that. Most family cases like this settle before trial. The loan situation proved most challenging. As Mr. Patel at Riverside Bank had warned, removing myself as co-signer wasn't simple. The bank was reluctant to release me from the mortgage without a replacement guarantor, especially given my mother's poor payment history and limited income. We might need to force a sale of the property, Sarah advised reluctantly. It's not ideal, but it may be the only way to disentangle you financially. Throughout this process, my family's behavior oscillated between aggressive hostility and desperate pleading. After the initial shock of learning I had my father's journal, my mother attempted to discredit its contents. Your father was delusional toward the end, she claimed in a voicemail. Those ramblings don't mean anything. He was planning to leave us destitute while hiding money for his favorite daughter. When that approach failed to move me, she switched tactics. I'm having chest pains, Tasha. The doctor says it's stress-induced. If anything happens to me, it's on your conscience. Amanda's response was more directly confrontational. She began calling my coworkers, telling elaborate stories about my alleged mental health issues and substance abuse problems. Fortunately, Richard had warned the office about potential disruptions and instructed staff to direct all such calls to HR. The most difficult moment came when Amanda's attorney contacted Sarah with a settlement offer. Amanda would admit to the identity theft and agree to a repayment plan if I dropped the inquiry into the life insurance money and agreed to remain as co-signer on the loans for 2 more years. It's a non-starter, Sarah told me firmly. They're still trying to maintain control. If you accept, you'll be legally bound to them for years more, and there's no guarantee they'll fulfill their end of the bargain. I declined the offer, which triggered another round of family pressure. This time, they recruited mutual friends and extended family members to act as mediators. My phone filled with messages from people I barely knew, all urging me to heal the family rift and find forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing abuse to continue, I explained to my cousin Beth when she appeared unannounced at my door. I can forgive them without giving them access to my finances. But they're family, Beth insisted. You can't just cut them off. I'm not cutting them off, I replied. I'm setting boundaries. Beth left unconvinced, and later that day I saw she had posted on Facebook about selfish younger generations who don't understand family obligation. Through it all, a small circle of true friends stood by me. Melissa, despite still recovering from her surgery, helped me document the harassment for potential restraining orders. My coworker James, whose mother had been a financial counselor, connected me with resources for rebuilding my credit. Even Richard continued to be supportive, assuring me that my promotion was secure despite the chaos in my personal life. Then came a day I hadn't anticipated. I was leaving work when I saw Amanda waiting beside my car in the parking garage. My first instinct was to turn around, but something in her expression stopped me. She looked defeated. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual edge. No drama, no demands, just talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop across the street, a public place where any confrontation would be witnessed. Amanda looked smaller somehow, hunched over her coffee cup. "The district attorney offered me a deal," she began without preamble. "If I plead guilty to identity theft and agree to full restitution, They'll recommend probation instead of jail time. I nodded, waiting for her to continue. I can't go to jail, Tasha. Jackson needs me. I never wanted you to go to jail, Amanda. I just wanted the financial abuse to stop. She flinched at the word abuse, but didn't argue. Did you really not know about the credit cards? All these years? Of course I didn't know. How could you think I would approve of that? Mom said you had agreed to it, she admitted. That after Dad died, you promised to take care of the family financially, and this was just part of the arrangement. I shook my head in disbelief. That never happened. I helped because I thought you needed it, not because I owed it to you. When did you figure it out? After graduation? After Jackson? I couldn't finish the sentence. Amanda stared into her coffee. That was Mom's idea, you know. Having Jackson ruin the cake. She said it would put you in your place, remind you where your priorities should be. I went along with it because... She trailed off, seemingly unable to articulate a justification. Because it was easier than standing up to her, I finished. I know how that feels. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of years of manipulation hanging between us. I'm going to take the plea deal, Amanda finally said. And I filed for divorce from Doug, after what he did to your car. I can't be with someone who would do that. This news surprised me. I thought you and Doug were working things out. We were, until Mom got involved. She convinced him that destroying your property was justified, that you were threatening our family stability. When I saw that video from your security camera, I realized how toxic it had all become. She looked up at me. Jackson told me he visited you. I tensed, worried she was angry about it. He did. He said you were kind to him, even after everything. That you told him adults were supposed to teach him better. Her eyes filled with tears. I haven't been teaching him better, have I? It was the first genuine moment of reflection I'd witnessed from my sister in years. It's not too late to change that, I offered cautiously. I don't know how to fix any of this, she admitted. Mom's still in denial, convinced you'll eventually give in. The bank's threatening foreclosure. Jackson's acting out at school. And now I might have a criminal record. Part of me wanted to step in and solve her problems as I always had. But Sarah's voice echoed in my head. Helping someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. I can't fix this for you, I said gently. But I can tell you that taking responsibility was the first step for me toward feeling in control of my own life. Maybe it can be for you, too. Amanda nodded slowly. I'm sorry, Tasha. For everything. Not just the money, but for how I've treated you. You deserved better. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it felt like the first honest exchange we'd had in years. As we were leaving, Amanda asked, Will you be at the hearing next week? For the restraining order against Mom? Yes, I replied. I need to protect myself. I understand, she said quietly. I won't be there, on either side. I just can't. I watched her walk away, feeling an unexpected mixture of sadness and hope. Perhaps Amanda could break free from the toxic patterns our mother had established. For Jackson's sake, I hoped she would. The restraining order hearing was straightforward. My mother didn't appear, sending a statement through her attorney claiming medical inability to attend. The judge reviewed the evidence of harassment, the police reports of vandalism, and the threatening messages, then granted a 1-year order prohibiting her from contacting me or coming within 100 feet of my home or workplace. This doesn't solve the underlying issues, Sarah cautioned as we left the courthouse, but it gives you breathing room to resolve the financial matters without constant harassment. That breathing room proved valuable. Over the next month, I focused on rebuilding my life. I accepted the promotion at work, using the increased salary to secure a small apartment in a building with better security. I worked with credit counselors to repair the damage to my credit score. And I began, tentatively, to envision a future free from the obligation that had defined my adulthood. The final piece fell into place unexpectedly. Sarah called one afternoon with news about the mortgage situation. Your mother has agreed to sell the house, she announced. Apparently, a distant cousin has offered her a place to stay in exchange for helping with childcare. The sale proceeds should cover the remaining loan balance, removing you from that obligation completely. She's really agreed to this? I asked. suspicious of another manipulation. "It's in writing and filed with the court," Sarah assured me. I think she finally realized she had no other options. With that, the last financial tie was severed. I was, for the first time since my father's death, truly independent. As for the life insurance money, my mother eventually admitted through her attorney that she had indeed cashed the check without my knowledge. As part of our final settlement, she agreed to a repayment plan, though I doubted I would ever see the full amount. More valuable than the money was the confirmation that my father had tried to provide for me, had recognized my worth in a way my mother never had. His journal became a treasure I kept close, a reminder that someone had once seen my true value. 6 months after graduation, I received an unexpected email from Amanda's therapist, requesting a session with both of us. Amanda had been in counseling, part of her plea agreement, and wanted to work on rebuilding our relationship. I agreed with caution, still wary of manipulation. But the Amanda who met me in the therapist's office seemed genuinely changed. She had completed a financial responsibility course, found a job, and was working with a parenting coach to break the cycle of toxicity with Jackson. "I don't expect you to trust me," she said during our session. "I haven't earned that yet, but I'd like a chance to try." We agreed to limited contact, starting with occasional text messages and working up to monthly coffee meetings. It wasn't the close sisterly relationship that movies portrayed, but it was honest, and that felt more valuable than false closeness. Jackson and I developed our own relationship through these cautious reunions. He was receiving therapy too, learning healthier ways to express himself. The entitled boy who had ruined my cake was slowly being replaced by a thoughtful young person who asked questions about college and showed interest in my work. As for my mother, she maintained her distance, even after the restraining order expired. Through Amanda, I learned she had moved in with our cousin in Arizona, still convinced that I would eventually come to my senses and resume financial support. I had no intention of doing so, but I no longer felt angry when thinking about her, just sad for what might have been. 1 year after graduation, I hosted a small gathering at my new apartment. Melissa and her husband, Richard and his wife, and a few other friends who had stood by me through everything came to celebrate not just my professional success, but my personal journey as well. To freedom, Melissa toasted, raising her glass. "And to chosen family," I added, looking around at the people who had proven their worth through actions rather than blood ties. Later that evening, as the gathering was winding down, I received a text from Amanda with a photo of Jackson holding an A+ history report. "He wanted you to see this," the message read. "Says his cool aunt would be proud." I smiled at the simple acknowledgement of our evolving relationship. The road to healing wasn't straight or easy, but I was on it, moving forward one step at a time, finally free to define family on my own terms. The day of the final court hearing arrived exactly 18 months after my graduation. I stood outside the courthouse, taking deep breaths to calm my nerves. This would be the official end of my financial entanglements with my family. "Ready?" Sarah asked, briefcase in hand. "As I'll ever be," I replied. The courtroom was mostly empty, just a few legal personnel and, surprisingly, Amanda sitting in the back row. We hadn't discussed her attending, but she gave me a small nod as I walked past. My mother was absent, represented only by her attorney. Judge Harris reviewed the settlement agreement methodically. My mother would maintain the repayment plan for the misappropriated life insurance money. Amanda would continue restitution for the fraudulent credit cards. All loans bearing my name had been resolved through the house sale and refinancing. I was officially free of financial responsibility for my family. "Miss Rollins," Judge Harris addressed me directly. "The court recognizes the unusual nature of this case. Financial exploitation by family members often goes unreported due to shame or misplaced loyalty. Your courage in addressing these issues is commendable." I hadn't expected validation from the court, and tears pricked my eyes as the judge continued. "This settlement represents not just financial resolution, but an opportunity for all parties to establish healthier boundaries moving forward. The court sincerely hopes that opportunity will be seized." With a bang of his gavel, it was over. Years of financial entrapment concluded in a 15-minute hearing. Outside the courtroom, Amanda approached cautiously. "Congratulations," she said simply. "Thank you for coming," I replied, genuinely touched by her presence. I wanted to see it finished. For both of us. She handed me an envelope. "Jackson made this for you." Inside was a handmade card featuring a stick figure in a graduation cap standing on what appeared to be a mountaintop. "Aunt Tasha is brave" was written in 12-year-old handwriting. "He's right, you know," Amanda said quietly. "What you did took courage. Standing up to family is harder than standing up to strangers." We walked together to the courthouse steps, an odd companionship built on the ruins of our former relationship. "Mom's not doing well," Amanda volunteered. "She refuses to accept any of this as real. Keeps insisting you'll come to your senses eventually." I nodded, unsurprised. "And you? How are you doing?" "One day at a time," she replied. "The financial counseling has been eye-opening. I never realized how much I'd internalized Mom's attitudes about money and entitlement." "It takes time to unlearn those patterns," I said, thinking of my own journey. "Jackson asks about you. He's doing better in school, working with a counselor on his behavior. The therapist says kids are resilient if given the right support." "I'd like to see him sometime," I offered, "if you're comfortable with that." Amanda looked surprised, but pleased. He'd like that too. We parted with an awkward hug, not quite friends, but no longer enemies. Two survivors of the same dysfunctional system trying to find our way to healthier lives. The next 2 years brought changes I could never have imagined on that devastating graduation night. My career at Wilson Financial flourished, with Richard becoming not just a boss, but a mentor. I completed a certification in financial counseling, specializing in helping people escape financial abuse and build independence. My relationship with Amanda evolved into something cautiously positive. We weren't close in the traditional sense, but we had developed a respectful understanding. She had committed to her therapy and parenting classes, making genuine efforts to break the toxic patterns our mother had established. Doug was no longer in the picture, having moved to another state after their divorce. Jackson, now 14, had blossomed once removed from the poisonous family dynamics. I took him to museums, science exhibits, and even a college campus tour just to see what it's like. The entitled boy who had once thrown my cake on the floor was becoming a thoughtful young man with interests in science and history. My mother remained the one unchanged element in the equation. She refused all contact after the final settlement, maintaining that I had betrayed the family. Through occasional updates from Amanda, I learned she had bounced between relatives' homes, always wearing out her welcome with demands and manipulation. I sent birthday and Christmas cards each year, not expecting responses, but leaving the door slightly ajar should she ever want a relationship based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. 3 years after graduation, I bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood, using savings I had accumulated once freed from supporting my family. The day I signed the mortgage papers, I thought about how far I had come from the desperate young woman who had watched her celebration cake hit the floor. For my housewarming party, I invited the people who had become my chosen family. Melissa and her husband, Richard and his wife Lauren from the financial office, Sarah, who had been both attorney and confidant, and a few other friends who had stood by me through everything. To my surprise, Amanda and Jackson also attended, arriving with a houseplant and a homemade pie. Jackson immediately gravitated toward the bookshelves, while Amanda tentatively joined conversations with my friends. As I watched this unlikely gathering, I realized we were writing a new story, one not dictated by old patterns or obligations, but by choice and respect. Later that evening, as most guests were leaving, Jackson approached with an envelope. "I found this in Grandma's stuff when we were helping her move last year," he explained. "I think it belongs to you, but I wasn't sure when to give it to you." Inside was a faded photograph of my father holding me as a baby, his expression one of pure adoration. On the back, in his handwriting, "Tasha, 4 months old, already the strongest person I know." "Thank you," I whispered, hugging the photo to my chest. "He was right, wasn't he?" Jackson observed. "You are strong." "Not always," I admitted. "But I learned to be, when it mattered." After everyone had gone and I was alone in my new home, I sat on the porch swing thinking about strength and family and the journey of the past 3 years. The path to healing hadn't been straight or easy. There had been setbacks, moments of doubt, and nights of questioning whether standing up for myself was worth the cost. But sitting there, in a home that was truly mine, surrounded by people who valued me for who I was rather than what I could provide, I knew the answer. The hardest lesson I'd learned wasn't about financial independence or setting boundaries, though those were important. It was about recognizing my own worth, independent of others' validation. My father had seen that worth from the beginning. Already the strongest person I know, he had written when I was just 4 months old. It had taken me nearly 30 years and a devastating betrayal to discover that strength for myself. As night fell on my new neighborhood, I made a promise to myself. I would use what I had learned to help others trapped in similar situations. Through my work in financial counseling, and by sharing my story, I could perhaps be the guide that I had needed 3 years ago. The cake incident that had seemed so catastrophic had ultimately been the catalyst for reclaiming my life. Sometimes destruction clears the way for rebuilding something stronger, more authentic, and more beautiful than what existed before. I thought about what I would tell someone just beginning this journey, someone standing where I had stood that night with cake at their feet and laughter in their ears. I would tell them that family should lift you up, not tear you down. That love doesn't demand sacrifice without reciprocity. That sometimes the bravest act of love is setting yourself free. And I would tell them what I wish I had known then. You are not alone, and you are worth fighting for. Have you ever had to make the difficult decision to prioritize your own well-being over family expectations? What helped you find the strength to set boundaries? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their journey towards self-worth and healthy relationships. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the family we choose is more valuable than the family we're born into.